All right, well, we're here again, guys. It's good to be here. Thanks for joining another episode of the weekly daily podcast with your host, me, Ben Humming Dailey, Benjamin, Benny Boy. I am here. It's good to be here. Thanks for joining. As always, it's been a busy week. It's been a lot going on. I feeling good. I've been having a lot of stomach aches recently. It's a real staple in the Ben Dailey day-to-day life, if I'm being honest. Stomach aches. But I'm feeling good today. I think I was having too many snacks or too much food before going to bed. I don't know what it was, but I half fasted yesterday. I did a half fast, aka didn't eat until dinner, and feel pretty good. Feel pretty. Excuse me. I just had lunch, and I'm burping into the microphone. Is that good content? Just burps and farts. That's gonna be the next podcast. Me just burping and farting for 45 minutes, and gonna get a lot of weirdos clicking on the episode. No, but feeling good. Glad to be here. It's been a very busy week. I just got an Amazon package delivered. Just got some new shoes. Let's see how flexible I am. Got the oh boy, that feels vulnerable right there. Doing that. Got some new Saucony guides, 16s. I don't know what they're on. I do this. I feel a little bit bad in a way, but also I feel not bad at all in the other way. And what I mean by that is I always buy my running shoes on Amazon, and I buy previous editions. They're new shoes. They're still new. They're just like last year's model or the model before, so they're like half the price. And I feel bad sometimes, like not supporting local running stores, especially if I'm like, and I haven't been recently, but like if I'm doing a running club through them or something like that. It is good to support your local businesses, but I also don't want to spend $150 for the same shoe that I can get on Amazon. So sue me. I'm doing it. I did it. This time I paid an extra $10, guys. I don't know if I probably did not showcase the color of my previous running shoe on the podcast here, but it was like a turquoise. They're right over there. I'm looking at them. I'm not going to go get them. They're a very not great color, honestly, especially if you're running and just running clothes, it's not a huge deal, but I have a bad habit of wearing my running shoes sometimes like out, sometimes to comedy or just running errands or doing stuff. So it'll be like me dressed in like normal clothes, like a jacket and jeans, and then like turquoise shoes. Kind of a weird color. Does not match very well with that stuff. So this time went with a little more neutral white and turquoise blue, little orange band on there, whatever that is. And ready to run in these suckers. We'll see how. I mean, they're the same shoes. There's something, that's another thing with running shoes. I used to have knee problems with my running shoes. I ran in the Brooks Ghost, and I liked the shoes, but I was getting knee issues, and it wasn't until I switched over to the Saucony Guide shoes, which are a stability shoe rather than a neutral shoe, meaning if you pronate a little bit or like just need a little bit more stability to keep your running gait in a proper form, then the stability shoes help out with that a little bit. And I switched over to the Saucony Guide, and the knee problems went away. But my brain is, you see all these shoes, these different brands, these different models, and I'm like, I want to try some of these new ones out. They seem cool. But I've just stuck with the Saucony Guide. I'll just get the same pair over and over and over again because they work, and I don't want to deal with knee problems again. I'm only getting older, and it feels likely that knee and hamstring and ankle and hip and all of the joints and parts of my body are just going to start failing. They say when you hit 40, it's all downhill from there. They say over the hill You hit 40 years old, they say over the hill. But you know what? Here in Colorado, I've hiked a lot of mountains and hills, and you get to the hill and it's a false summit, and then you just keep going up. So maybe over the hill is a good thing. You're like over the first hill, you're still gonna go up. And depending on how you view that, going up could be bad. You don't want to hike anymore, but also it could be like my potential is still rising. You know what? Maybe that I'm going to be 50 years old and I'm going to be the fastest runner I've ever been, which honestly is totally plausible because I never really put too much effort into becoming a super fast runner. So we'll see. I just wrote down a little thing in my note section of my iPhone, a little comment about running, trying to expand on my running joke that I've had for a year and has been sparsely used, especially recently. Didn't really turn into anything, but I do, when I run, I have a habit, and I think a lot of people do this, but I'll like really talk tough to myself. I'll be running, and then that whatever voice in your head is like, "Oh, you're gonna run slow, you little loser." But I don't say loser. I say like, I say the real stuff internally in my head. Really gets me going. And but then I'll also, this is the thing, I don't know, do you guys do this? Whether it's with running or exercise or anything like that, where you imagine yourself in situations where you're like winning or you're overcoming something or you're accomplishing something big. And as you're pushing your body to the limit while running or exercising and having those thoughts, you get like emotional, which is hilarious. Because on one end, I'm like, "Oh, you better run, you stupid idiot," and then on the other end, I'm like, I don't know, whatever imagines. These are the couple things that I imagine usually. Was that a good crying impression? That was my best acting, my best crying ability right there. Fake cry. These are the things that I typically imagine. One is I'll just imagine winning a race, which I'm not running many races now, but as you're running, you're like, "Oh, I used to run cross country and I did a lot of races." And just the thought of like winning a race and being like the first finisher and just running fast, and you're like, "Yes, I accomplished something." But then now, more so recently, with doing stand up all the time and like pursuing that as a career, I imagine myself like performing at a sold out theater with friends and family present and just crushing and getting like a standing ovation and walking off stage and just hugging your friends and just being like, "Oh man, that really gets me going." It's a weird, if you were to be a fly that just flew beside me or just a person, you don't have to be a bug, and just like took a look at my facial expressions of like the one side where I'm like, "Ah, you better run, you idiot," and then the other side of like, you're just accomplished an imaginary thing. I don't know. Do you guys do that? I feel like that's probably normal, but also, is it normal? I don't know. For the longest time, I thought I was normal and things that went on in my brain were typical of everybody. But the older I've gotten, the more I've started to I think I'm a weirdo, and I don't think a lot of the stuff that I think or do is normal, maybe. So let me know if you guys do that. But yeah, got these running shoes. Going to try them out tonight, today, probably. Excited to break in a new pair. I've been running a little bit more, and the old ones were worn down a little bit. Ran yesterday, and I'll tell you this, dude. The gnats are terrible. The bugs here in Colorado, we're very fortunate because it's not a humid climate. Bugs in general are really not present. Like, it's compared to the East Coast, compared to humid areas I've been in, like the bugs can be bad. But as I was running, and this has happened, I've noticed this. I don't know if it's a proximity to water thing, which it might be, but as I was running, I'm running by like a large creek. I don't know what you call it. In my mind, a creek is like a very narrow thing, like a couple feet wide. But when you're talking about like 30 to 50 feet wide, obviously that's not a river. It's still, what is it? Is it a creek? Just a big creek. It's not a river. It's a, water was flowing in a section. I was running on a path beside it. That's what I'm trying to say. And every 10 feet during that stretch, there's just like a cloud of gnats. And, you know, when you're running, you're taking breaths, your mouth is open. And so I'm like, I don't want to swallow these gnats. They're getting in my eye. I'm like, they're going in my mouth. So then I'm just like shutting my mouth and I'm literally making like a little breathing gap out of the side of my mouth. Like if you're watching the video, I was just like I'm breathing like I don't even know how to describe it. Just like a weirdo, barely getting breaths in. But I was trying to filter out the gnats from going in my mouth. What I'm trying to say is I hate you. If you're a gnat, okay, if you're a gnat listener, I despise you. I hate you. Why, are you the way that you are? That's what I want to ask. And I would like you to leave a comment and defend yourself. Explain yourself. Gnats are useless, and I don't like them. But it's weird that there's no bugs here, really, in Colorado for the most part. But then there's massive cloud pockets of gnats. So that's weird and frustrating, and I don't like that. But other than that, it was a very beautiful day yesterday. Nice temperature. Got a nice 6-mile run in, and felt good. Felt good during and after the run. But what else has been going on? It's been a busy week, like I said. It's been a chaotic week. You guys want to hear the juice? Here's something that happened yesterday. So I've talked about the upstairs neighbors in the past and how they'll make noise and just weird stuff going on. And it all came to a head. Came to a, is that a saying? It all came to a head? What does that even mean? It all exploded yesterday in a certain extent. Here's what happened. So to give you the backstory, if you haven't heard past podcasts and know what I'm talking about, essentially the upstairs neighbors have been sporadic with their movements, with their bickering, with their sleeping hours, with playing music, all leading me to believe maybe they're doing drugs or I don't know what's going on, but it's all, just their routine. Everything is so chaotic. It just makes me question, like, what's going on up there? And yesterday morning, I was sleeping in my nice full-size Walmart expandable mattress. Got it for $150. Very nice luxury bed. And it was like 7 a.m., and I heard them in the room above me kind of bickering and arguing. Kind of loud, but honestly, it wasn't like crazy loud, but it's kind of the norm at this point. You hear them, stuff going on. It's like, all right, they're at it again, whatever. Honestly, they probably hadn't gone to bed yet. It's like 7 a.m. It's just like, I don't know, did they do drugs all night and they're just up arguing with each other? So that happens for a little bit. Wake up probably about 7 a.m. 8 a.m. comes along, and I hear super loud glass shattering noise, which woke me up for sure. And I was kind of, it was so loud, and I was like, oh my gosh, something is happening. And so I stayed awake for the next like 10, 15 minutes. I'm assuming, okay, I heard them arguing, and then you hear this glass smash, which was probably like an hour later, but there were no voices, no screams, no commotion afterwards. So I just stayed awake to like listen, see if I heard anything, to see if I like needed to call the cops or something. And nothing happened. It was just, I was like, okay, maybe they're high on heroin and they dropped a plate. I don't know. Well, fast forward a couple hours. I get up, I roam around, I go outside, I take a look. Outside, their bedroom window right above me smashed out. Glass and the screens are out like on the sidewalk area of the apartment complex. And I was like, okay, that doesn't seem good. I don't know what's going on there, but who knows? So fast forward another couple hours, I go out for the run. I come back, and um, there are cops outside, and they're roaming around. And I had to go grocery shopping, so I go out to grocery shop, and the cop stops us and is like, "Hey, do you know what's going on here? Did you hear anything?" And so I told the little bit of information that I heard, and I asked them what was going on, and they're like, "Well, we can't go into details, but it's just a DV, and it's I was like, I asked them, I said, "Are we in danger?" I didn't feel uh, personally in danger at all, but I just was trying to probe for information. Like, was there a big crime committed here? What's going on? And she just told me, yeah, it's just a DV. We're just waiting for the investigators to come here. And so I don't know what's going on now. I guess, DV. The funny thing that I thought was, and people do this all the time, and it's kind of funny, but also kind of annoying that people will talk to you in acronyms that are used just in their field, but not for other people. And so it's like, why are you talking to me like I'm your cop colleague that also went through cop school? And it's like, I know all the acronyms, DV, which in my head, I, figured out domestic violence given the circumstances and critical thinking skills that, I have occasionally. But I've gone through periods where people do that, and it's like, it's more annoying than funny. Actually, it's not even funny. I used to work in and around Washington D.C. and people love it's almost like a way to show that they're better than you. But I never thought they were better I just was like, you're dumb. We're having a conversation, and then you're like, yeah, I'm part of the LMNOP. That's a terrible example, but I'm part of the FGIA. And it's just like, I don't know what that is. And the fact that you're not telling me, and this is maybe your way to be like, I have value in my company because I've memorized a 4-letter acronym, so I'm better than you. It's just like, if you don't, just say what the words are. If you don't, and I don't know, then this conversation, you're leaving out very important information out of this conversation. Like, if somebody asked me where I worked and I just made an acronym of the company that I work with, and it's just like, yeah, what does that mean? Like when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, if someone's like, where do you work? I'm like, DSP. They're like, what's that? It's like, one of the biggest sporting stores in the world. Are you stupid? It's like, no, you said it like an idiot. Don't talk to me like that. Okay. Say the words. So she told me DV, domestic violence. So I've been checking the internets to see if crime reports come up to see what's going on. I don't know. Don't know. We'll have to find out. But I hope that everybody is okay, and I hope that people don't beat up their significant others or lay hands on their significant others moving forward. That's a nasty thing to do, and be better than that. Don't do drugs and don't touch people in a harmful way. Okay? This is not a comedy podcast. This is a motivational treat people well podcast. I it's kind of gloomy outside at the moment. I don't know how bright I am on the camera, but it's warm today. Shocker, it snowed for like 2 or 3 days at the end of last week. I mean, it's been 70 or 80 degrees for the last week or two with just a random pocket of snow. Which, yeah, typical Colorado. No need to go into the weather as I do every single time, but I don't like it. Nobody likes it. Why does the weather not listen to us? I don't know. But yeah, so the big news yesterday was the DV case. Old DV. But yeah, that was I don't yeah. I part of me thought like maybe it would come to that. I was telling the cops were interviewing me, asking me for some information, and I've heard stuff going on upstairs. And it's kind of like it sounds like tweaked out people who are tweaked out, like on drugs and staying up late and whatever. And I've heard bickering for sure, but I've never heard because I've kept an ear out for because I don't. It's one of those things that you like don't want to deal with. You're like, gosh, I don't want to have to like hold the anxiety of like, do I need to assist or call the cops or whatever? But when it's above you and when you're in, like, if you're on the street and there's some strangers, some lady getting beat up right beside you, it kind of becomes peripherally your responsibility to like be a good Samaritan. So I've kept an ear out to hear if it like escalates to a certain point, if I need to get involved, aka call the cops. Probably not going to get involved personally, but it had never gotten there. It would just be like bickering and kind of like, oh, is anything going to happen? And then nothing would happen. But it didn't sound like a healthy relationship. I'll say that. So hopefully everything's all good, but hopefully also if it is an unhealthy, abusive relationship, this stems both people getting the help that they need, whether that, out of the relationship. I don't know. I don't know what the process is. Is domestic violence, is that automatic? You go to jail? Is that just like, here's a ticket, restraining order? I don't know. I'll have to Wikipedia that later. I'm not familiar with the charges for domestic violence. I know it's bad and you shouldn't ever do it. And, that's about all I know. But that was the big Sunday news. It's been a long week. I did quite a few things. It was quite busy. Starting on Monday, I did what did I do on Monday? I went to a mic on Monday. I'm excited, guys. I've got a couple bits that are I'm working out. I talked about it on the last podcast, but I'm actually feeling encouraged and optimistic with some jokes that I've got in the hopper, and worked a little bit on them Monday, and then throughout the week during the shows that I did, worked on them as well. The main one that I've been working on, well, I'm working on a handful. And I talked about the leaving the movie theater in every single podcast for the past month. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it. But I do have some news on it. Tried it out at multiple shows and not doing great. It's it's a joke that's not getting much. There's a little, it's one of those, and this is totally fine. Honestly, the large majority of jokes are the same thing. They're this type of joke that I'm talking about for the movie theater, which is, hey, it has the structure of a joke, it has quote-unquote punchlines, and the punchlines get small giggles throughout. But, it's really down to what you're looking for, and if you're a comedian who's self-critical and trying to improve at all, then these types of jokes that are just getting kind of small giggles throughout rather than big laughs throughout, you just got to you got to take that input and go, this is not good enough. I need to change the punchlines. I need to add, eliminate, mix up, subtract, whatever you got to do. Or just, you're like, this joke is just dead now. Now, I mean, I think since it's one of the newer ones that I have now, I'll probably try to work it in and try to work through it and see if I can figure it out. But, I've gotten enough input at this point, doing it at a couple shows, to realize like, okay, it's just not that funny. But I've got a couple other jokes that have been doing okay, and so I've been excited about that. I've got a finger guns. I said that last time. Fingers gun. That's the name of this episode. Fingers gun, and got a finger guns joke, which is just a silly, goofy, basic thing, and it's been doing pretty good, which is funny because I thought it was, and it might be low-hanging fruit, but I thought it was just like, this isn't going to be very good, but it's been doing better than I thought it would. I've also got a joke about turbulence on an airplane. That's just kind of a throwaway one-liner joke that I wasn't even planning to say on stage, let alone do it at show. But that has done okay. It's gotten mixed reviews. So it's done okay some, and it's done kind of not great a couple. So it's still up in the air as far as like, is this a joke that I can use that will be consistent, or is it just not that funny? And then I debuted at the Denver Comedy Lounge, which I did shows there this last weekend, and I'll talk about those here in a little bit. But I did a joke about, and I've been working on a joke about my diet. Spoiler alert, I have a weird diet, guys. If you didn't know that already, then welcome to the podcast, the Weekly Daily. I should change the name of this to the Weekly Ben's Diet. What did Ben eat last week? Because I talk too much about what I've been eating and my diet and things like that. But because of that, it's obviously a very prevalent thing in my life. So I've written a joke, been trying to write through a joke about like food allergies or food sensitivities, and I did it for the first time, and it did. I'm excited about it. It did pretty good. And I also have a lot of other jokes that I've tried to write in the past that are kind of similar topics, where I'm trying to go back and look through those jokes to see if there's like little funny portions of it that I can just add on and expand this current joke. So I'm really excited about that. I genuinely think that this might be one of the better. I'm not going to say it's great, but out of the last couple months, this might be one of the semi-successful bits that I'm able to put into my sets moving forward if I'm doing 20 to 30 minutes or however long. So that should be good. I'll keep you updated on how it goes. But that was Monday. So Monday I worked on some of those jokes. Tuesday, went on date night with the girlfriend, Dailey. Went to Topgolf in where? In North Glen in Thornton. There's two Topgolfs in kind of the Denver area. Neither in Denver. One is north, one is south. The one in the south is Centennial, and the one north is the one that we went to, North Glen or Thornton. And it's been a minute since I've gone to Topgolf. I guess I've only been to Topgolf once, but that was fun. It was Delina's first time golfing ever. So it was one of those where you're like, how's it going to go? Just because golf is, I think a lot of people view it as like, oh, dude, the ball's not even moving. That's the common thing people say. The ball's not even moving. This is the easiest sport ever. But, I mean, similar in some ways to any sport, but not necessarily. Actually, I would say it's harder than a lot of sports, at least day one. Because it's like a different thing. It doesn't matter if the ball's not moving. You have to learn to swing. It's just like a very different movement, and it can be very frustrating. And if you look at like any other sport, soccer, basketball, baseball, like all of those, you may be terrible, but day one with soccer, you can kick a ball. You go kick it. Maybe you're not good. Maybe you don't kick it far. Maybe you don't kick it in the air, but you can kick the soccer ball. With basketball, you can pick up the basketball. You may not make it in the hoop, but you can throw it. You can, kind of do the thing that you're supposed to do. With baseball, same thing. You can throw the baseball. Maybe it's not fast. Maybe it's not good, but you can throw the baseball day one. With golf, a lot of people, it can be tough to just swing and like make contact with the ball. Like, even if you make contact, you're not going to hit it good. Like in basketball, day one, you can have a bad shot. You can make it in the bucket if you're there all day. Golf, you can swing for an hour and be like, I didn't hit one of those good or solid or far. So my point is with golf, it is a very difficult, like, what do you call it? The learning curve is like, it takes a minute to figure it out. With that said, Dailey, it was her first time, did very well. She figured it out and we played a bunch of the games with Topgolf, which are fun. You know, you don't have to be good at golf. It's like there's a bunch of different games that can make it fun for all skill levels. Uh, so that was fun. I will say that we are on the Whole30 diet this month, and going on date nights in places where like food or drinks are not a big part, but certainly a part of the environment and element of going out and having a good time. We didn't have any snacks, so it is kind of funny going out, especially if you're like both kind of hungry and you're like, well, we're just gonna swing golf clubs for 2 hours and pretend that we're full. But that was a good time. Tuesdays, not too many people there. It's a massive establishment. I mean, obviously the driving range is big, but they have like 3 levels, and it's a pretty big thing, which is why a pretty big location, like physically it's big, which is why I'm sure they don't have them in Denver, because it takes up a lot of land, and it also it looks like a suburban hangout. I was saying when we got there, I was like, this reminds me of like Buffalo Wild Wings, in the sense that in the suburbs, I bet a ton of people go to like the bar there, and they're just like, let's go hang at Topgolf and just have some beers and some food. And they've got TVs. You watch some games. Maybe we'll play some golf. Maybe not. Whereas when you're in the city, going to hang out at places like that are a lot less common, aka chains. Usually it's like, let's go to this. A lot of the businesses are just like one-off businesses, or bars or hangouts. I don't know what I'm saying. We went. It was a good time. Played some golf. That was what happened on Tuesday. Wednesday through Saturday. It was part of or went and watched shows all those days. So those were all fun. Wednesday went to Uncorked, which was a local show at Infinite Monkey Theorem in the Rhino area of Denver. It's a wine bar. Delina was on that show. She was on the show with a couple other people, so went and hung out and watched the show. It's a good show, good crowd. All the comics did well. I've been there a handful of times. It's like a show that happens twice a month, and it's been happening for at least the last couple of years, if not more. So I've hung out there. It's always a good time. It's a good hang. There's a lot of people in the crowd always, and the crowd is down to laugh. That wine, I'll tell you what, dude. If you drink some Sauvignon Blanc or some whatever a type of red wine is, I couldn't think of Merlot, whatever they are. I feel like that gets you giggling pretty good. I know when I drink wine, which it's been a minute, but I'll giggle. I'll giggle. Some would say a little too much. I turn into a child when I drink wine, which, I don't even need to drink wine. I'll turn into a child. I'll become very silly and goofy and immature. And, maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should improve that, but I'll save that for another day. That was Wednesday. Nothing, I'm trying to think if nothing really crazy. Just a good show. Solid hang. And then, okay, so here's the shows that I did Thursday through Saturday. It was a busy week. So Thursday, got the call to host the Denver Comedy Underground, which is a independent club here in Denver. They do Thursday shows and then Friday and Saturday shows. It's a very fun club. It's the bottom of the basement it's like the basement of a secular church. Is that how you describe it? It's like a church that doesn't worship any religion. It's just more so like a spiritual meeting grounds, but classified as a church, whatever that means. But it's in the basement of that, and it's like a 150 seat little packed in basement room, just perfect for comedy. So I got to host that on Thursday, and it was a fun crowd. Thursdays are a little less attended than weekends, just no matter where you're at, typically speaking. But there was probably 60 plus people, so still a good crowd. First time hosting there. Yeah, felt good. Got in a couple new jokes. one or two of them did not land, and that's fine. I addressed it. I did it. It's I feel like I'm getting more comfortable in the position I'm in now to try the new jokes, know that maybe it doesn't work, but also know if it doesn't work, that's okay. Do the joke, and then you can just break the tension by being like, all right, thanks for listening to that one, guys. You weren't really into it. And then moving on. But I did try. I think I tried the movie theater joke, which I don't think did that well, and maybe a couple others that did okay. But I ended strong. I sandwiched them in between jokes that do work to make the flow work fine. I wasn't gonna go up there and just bomb a host set with new stuff. I did some tried and true stuff, and then I'd squeeze in a new thing, and then go back to tried and true stuff to keep the momentum going. But that was a very fun show. It was fun hang. Comics, the comics on the lineup are people that I enjoy and respect and get along with well. So it was a fun time. That was Thursday night. Nothing. I'm trying to think if anything crazy. There was no crazy thing that happened. At least on Thursday. Not until the weekend. I had some craziness. It wasn't even that crazy, but on Friday and Saturday, like I said, I did the Denver Comedy Lounge, and that is always fun. I'll do that a couple times a year. It's a club run by Ben Kronberg, one of the sweetest guys ever. Super cool, super down to earth. I've said it before. He's like an established comic who has now started running this club and just giving opportunities to everybody and really helping comics grow and giving them a space to just try out new. It's not even just trying out new stuff, but he's giving opportunities to a lot of people that aren't getting opportunities elsewhere. And I feel comfortable there trying out newer stuff. Like I'm not trying to do poorly, and I almost never do poorly there. I feel very comfortable in that room, and but it feels like a place where you can try something, and even if it fails, there's not like the pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be invited back. Now, I don't know if I feel like Ben is. I'm pretty sure he's fine with that. He's super down to earth, but also I don't know if he's necessarily said that, but I think he just kind of the vibe that he gives is like, hey, go do your thing, go try stuff out, and just do your best. And like, if it doesn't work, like it's not the end of the world. And so always love being there. And it's also cool because it's 5 shows over the weekend. It's 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. So you get a lot of reps, which is always fun. So Friday, it's a 7 and 9 o'clock show, and oh boy, they were good. Both shows were hot. Felt really good about the set. Mixed up the set list, not just Friday, but I kind of mixed up the set list all week long, which was nice. But Friday did. I'm trying to think. The Friday show at 7 was hot. I had a really good set. One of the comics brought their camera and recorded it. I got that, so it's cool. It's nice to have like a solid tape there. I threw a couple new jokes in there, but it wasn't until the 9 o'clock show on Friday that I think I threw in that movie theater joke, which, like I said, I don't think it went that well. But the crowd was good, so it didn't matter. Like, it wasn't as good as the other jokes, but I kept the momentum going. It didn't ruin the set at all. But I didn't record that one. I didn't record any of them. One of the comics recorded the first show on Friday and then all 3 shows on Saturday. So that's bless his heart. I always love, sorry, I've got like a booger and it's making my nose itch. I'm also paranoid that there's a booger on camera and I don't want to be the booger boy, Anyways, always appreciate when other comics are filming stuff, especially with professional equipment, and then just offering to pass it off to people. That's a very kind gesture. I know I've done it before, and I know the work that you have to do to split it up, to upload it, to sync the audio and video, and all those things. So very much appreciate that. But the Friday shows were great. Honestly, all the shows were great because sometimes the crowds there can be hit or miss. Which either way, it's fun. But I feel like a lot of times it's people that are maybe visiting Denver and they're just looking for something to do, and they're not necessarily huge comedy fans, and it's just something that they're doing before like doing something else later that night. So you get a lot of crowds that are just like smilers, if that makes sense. Just people who are kind of nodding their head and smiling versus laughing out loud hot crowds. But this weekend was very fun. Friday shows were both hot. Saturday, the 6 p.m. was a little tight. So that was the first show. There's a 6, 8, and 10 p.m. 6 p.m. was a little tight. But it was still fine. It wasn't bad. It was just a little bit tight. The 8 p.m. good show. I ended up doing, so all these sets I was doing like 8 to 10 minutes. But the Saturday 8 p.m. show, one of the comics was like going to do another show and then trying to come back, but he wasn't able to make it in time. So I ended up doing 15 minutes, and that was a great set. It was really good. I threw in a couple new things, and like that, I think every show on Saturday I did the food allergy joke that I was talking about, and honestly went pretty, not incredible, but did pretty well most of the time, I'd say. Maybe 2 out of the 3 shows did pretty good. So I was excited about that. Got to do 15 minutes. I think I'm going to get that tape. So that'll be cool to get a 15-minute, kind of high quality tape with a good crowd. Then the 10 p.m. comes along. Okay, and here's where the thing of the week. I don't know what you'd call it. I'm trying to think. I'm getting so sidetracked. What did I say I was going to call this episode earlier? DV? No. Oh, man, I forgot. I'm going to have to go through and find it and spend 20 minutes trying to find that stupid thing I said I was going to name that episode. Anyways, the 10 p.m. A little thingy thing happened that I didn't feel great about, but it is what it is, and you live and you learn. Here's what happened. 10 p.m., Saturday crowd. People have been drinking, people start getting chirpy. It's not uncommon to have people heckle or be a little drunk, especially at later shows. But 10 p.m. show, I'm going second to last. So there's like 4 or 5 comics before me. There's the host, and then maybe 4 comics. And before the show started, it was kind of funny. We had a little powwow with all the comics and said, let's do something fun for this last show. Let's all like reference the same word. And we came to the decision. We said, we're going to all say Boomshakalaka in our sets. No context given to the crowd, just all the comics say Boomshakalaka. So honestly, it like built rapport within the comedian group. It was like this camaraderie where like, oh, dude, we're going to go out there and say Boomshakalaka. And so every comic a comic or 2 forgot to do it, but there were like 7 comics on the lineup. So 3 of them had said it. 3 or 4 of them had said it before I went on stage. So it was definitely a running theme by the time I went on stage. But also before I get into that, there was a drunk lady in the crowd, and she was heckling the entire time. She was yelling out. And so she'd yell out during everybody's set. The host was kind of like, all right, don't do that. And then I think the staff went over to her at a certain point and said, you can't do that. And then just every comic. They either had to deal with it or they were addressing it and being like, hey, stop. And so I get on stage, and I'm really excited about, I have in my head, I'm like, I know where I'm going to do the Boomshakalaka. I think it's going to hit. I think it's going to be really funny. And I get about 2 minutes into my set, and I start the joke where I'm going to throw in the Boomshakalaka. And as soon as I start the joke, that lady yells out. She heckles. And I I I called her a dirty word. Okay, guys? I know this is a clean podcast and I'm a good wholesome boy. But I wouldn't even call it a full mistake. Because the crowd was somewhat on board and wanted this person to be shut down because they were distracting the show. But I think it just came off a little aggressive. It was a little out of left field, me saying a dirty word to a lady. But I won't say it, but I said, "We heard ya, lady." But I didn't say lady. And then the people applauded to be like, "Yes, thank you." But also, it just came out like a little aggressive. And I don't usually speak that way. So I like when something comes out of you without you being like wholeheartedly behind it and consciously like okay with saying it, and you're like, I've thought through this is a normal thing to say. Sometimes you can tell and maybe people can tell like, oh, I kind of said something I usually don't say. All in all, it was fine, but I was a little bit like, oh gosh, I think I got a little aggressive there. So that's a learning experience. All in all, it was fine. I did the rest of the set. She didn't heckle anymore, so I took care of it in that sense, I guess. But it was kind of a confrontational thing with me not being a confrontational person. I just kind of felt like vulnerable the rest of the set, being like, oh, I think I came off too aggressive. Does the crowd hate me? Blah, blah, blah. But all that said, so the lady shouts out. I shut her down, calling her a bad name. I'm kind of like tensed up. And I told the crowd too, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm not a confrontational person, and that was a little aggressive. And then I just went into my jokes again. And I mean, they ultimately laughed and it was fine. But after kind of a contentious moment like that, I was like 30 seconds from saying Boomshakalaka. And it did not. I mean, it was fine, but I was like, this is going to hit so hard. And it just like hit fine. It was whatever. But in my head, I was like, oh, I blew the Boomshakalaka. Because in my finger guns bit, I have a joke about the finger guns, like I mentioned. And I do like a sideways thing as the final punchline. And I was just going to do the sideways thing and go, Boomshakalaka. And I did, but it didn't. We'll never know if it would have hit harder. We'll never know, which is unfortunate. But that was the weekend. It was very fun. Always loved being at the Denver Comedy Lounge. Got to test out some of the new jokes. Had some very good sets. I'm feeling very optimistic about my comfortability and my just improvement on stage in general, but also working through some new jokes. So very, very excited moving forward. I've got some fun shows this week. I'm going to be doing a show at Stranahan's Distillery on Wednesday, which is the day this is coming out. That's a rotating tap show. Oh, I think it's sold out. So that'll be fun. Thursday, I'm hosting at, what's it called? Coal Mine Ave Brewing in Littleton. That's also a rotating tab show. I'm doing Don't Tell Comedy on Friday and Saturday. The following week, I'm going to be at Badgerland Fest in Wisconsin, Janesville, Wisconsin, May 1st through the 4th. Then I've got some other shows that following week. I'm going on the road and doing a string of shows, I think like May 15th to May 25th or 26th. So very excited for that. Those are going to be all over. Check out my link tree to see those shows if you're not in Denver or if you're just wherever in the U.S. I'm going to a lot of places, so maybe coming around your area. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, I'll end it there. Thanks so much as listening for always, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, leave comments for anything, if you hated it, if you loved it, any suggestions, any thoughts, any comments are appreciated. So yeah, thanks again for listening, guys. Appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you guys again next week.